everyone, and welcome back to another episode of BNEWS Sports Hub. I'm your host, Liz Gillespie. This month, we're heading down to the BHS gym to check out the BHS boys gymnastics team. We'll have a conversation with head coach Jourdan Marino and our Red Devil review with Robert Paris. And that's all right here, right now, on this month's BNEWS Sports Hub. Jumpstart our discussion, we will offer you a little refresher of the team. We go now to BNEWS sports reporter Robert Paris for our Red Devil review.
Hey everyone, I'm Robert Paris for your Red Devil review. It is a very special season for BHS boys gymnastics as they celebrate their 50th anniversary. The team debuted in 1970-71 season, where at the time 90 schools in the Commonwealth had gymnastics teams. Now, in 2021, only 5 teams remain in Massachusetts. With the 50th season headed into high gear, the Red Devils are welcoming first-year head coach Jourdan Marino. Marino is a Burlington native and a science teacher at the Marshall Simons Middle School. He was introduced to the sport by his former physical education teacher, Rick Bazuski, in 1998, and has been involved with the sport at the high school ever since. After graduating in 2002, Marino was the assistant coach alongside then head coach Rick Bazuski. During those years, the team saw a number of league titles and championships, and Jourdan has helped host the annual alumni meets during the month of December. At the end of the 2020 season, Rick Bazuski retired from coaching after 18 seasons. Marino moved up in the position as the head coach and will be working alongside 2008 BHS graduate Joe Giannino, who is the new assistant coach for the 2021 winter season. Now, let's take a look at some of the accomplishments the team has made in years past. In his final year as the assistant coach, the Red Devil lost 6 seniors on the team, but the record for 2020 was 4-1. During the 2020 season, 3 athletes set records for the team. Joe Abramo placed on his vault and floor routine. Anthony Semeraro had one during his floor routine as well. Finally, Sam Gillis set another one for his vault routine. Marino also saw undefeated league titles during the 2007 and 2008 season, and were the state championships in 2008 and 2012. As the season gets underway, Coach Marino is looking for the newcomers competing for the first time as a high school athlete. And that is all for your Red Devil review. I'm Robert Paris. Back to you, Liz.
And now we are back with my guest, head coach Jourdan Marino. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Awesome. So to start the discussion, tell me a little bit about last season.
So last season was a great season, and the reason why was because we had a lot of seniors. And you know as well as anyone else that when you have seniors who've been involved in a program for so long, you know, they run the program.
Yeah, pretty much.
So their senior year, they know how everything works. They know how the beginning of the season works. Yep. They know how practice works. They know how competitions work. They know the coaches' expectations. Yep. And it's the best thing for coaches to have seniors.
Yeah.
But it's also the worst thing when the season comes to an end because then they leave and all this leadership that has built disappears.
Yeah. How many did you lose?
I believe 7 or 8.
Ooh, that's tough.
Yeah, and they all had broad shoulders. They all did many events, and they were all counting scores. They really pulled the team.
Awesome.
And so with them gone, it becomes a rebuilding year.
Yeah. So what were some of your accomplishments that you reached last year?
Last year we had some wins. We had a couple losses. I'd have to say the biggest thing was our gain in our team score from the alumni meet to the end of the season. We went up about 25 points, which in gymnastics is a big deal.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Because if the kids are scoring, between 6s and 7s and 8s, for us to go up 25 points means everyone went up 1 or 2 points.
Oh wow!
And in gymnastics we count the tenths. And so, our biggest gain was our team score.
That's pretty impressive. Wow.
Yeah.
So how has this resulted in the new rebuild?
So the new rebuild is, given the current situation, we can only have 16 kids in the team.
Yeah.
We have about 14, a little bit more than a dozen.
Okay.
And which means it's more difficult for gymnasts to come in and only do one event.
Yeah.
When we have more kids, you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, everyone needs to kind of take on more than one event.
Yeah.
And so where we have 5 new kids, generally the new kids come in, they do one event, and maybe a few of them compete. The responsibility on the new kids is going to be a bit higher than usual because of the low numbers that we are faced with during this pandemic, and the fact that they need to be doing 2 or 3 events now.
Yeah. So what was it like not having the alumni meet this year?
That was strange. I've been in the alumni meet. I went through high school for 4 years, and then I've competed at the alumni meet every year up until just recently, and it's fun. It's a homecoming thing.
Yeah.
And the community, the boys gymnastics community is, we're so networked in that that's our homecoming. And we get kids who graduated recently. It's a rite of passage. You graduate. You have your prom and you go off your first year in college. But then when you come home and you go back to the old stomping grounds and the old hangouts and the old high school gymnastics gym, it's a rite of passage, and it's fun to see those kids finally take in that new form.
Yeah.
And we didn't have it this year for the right reasons, but so hopefully next year, if things are looking right, it'll be back and stronger than ever.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's what you like to hear.
Yeah.
So Mr. B, last year was his last year.
Mr. B. So everyone in Burlington knows Mr. Pazuski. He's the middle school phys ed teacher and the head coach of the gymnastics team. And without him, it's strange. It's very different, and it was anticipated, but it didn't make it any easier. And with Mr. B now retired, I've been the assistant coach for 15 plus years, and now I moved up as head coach.
Awesome.
And so I have to remember everything that Mr. B had taught me as a gymnast and as a coach. And and the coach before him, Mr. Hayes, all of that kind of comes together, and to keep all of that in the gym without them being in the gym, I don't think it'll be hard, but it will be different.
Oh, definitely. So tell me a little bit about your journey, starting in 1998, I see?
Yeah, so 1998 was my freshman year, and Mr. B was the assistant coach, Mr. Hayes was the head coach, and they started training me for all around, which means I do all 6 events.
Awesome. Good for you.
My favorite was high bar.
Nice.
And second would probably be floor. And
Nice.
I remember it was really difficult because I was tall, and being a tall gymnast can be very difficult.
Yep.
And but you get your way through it. And after 4 years, I graduated, and then I started just kind of hanging around the gym and volunteering my time until Mr. Hayes retired as head coach, I believe in 2005. And then I became assistant coach for 15 years.
Awesome.
And so you go through through those 15 years. We had undefeated seasons, with league titles, 2 state championships.
Awesome.
And a lot of kids, a lot of good kids came through there, and that I still stay in touch with.
Awesome.
And then fast forward to this week, we're on our 50th season as a boys program.
Woohoo.
And in my first year as coach, and with the help of the athletic department and the kids doing what they're supposed to be doing, we're looking to have hopefully a healthy,
Yep.
structured season.
Of course. Natural rite of passage to make it to
That's
head
right.
coach.
That's right.
So what were some of your favorite memories throughout this time?
Oh, geez. Every time we would go to a different high school, over the years the equipment changes. Some of the equipment gets old, and then the next year it's new. And so some of my favorite memories were listening to the advice that my coaches would give me if we would go to a gym and the spring floor just didn't seem right.
Yeah.
And looking back on the advice they gave us, sometimes I can see now that really didn't make sense. But at the time I believed it, and they told me what I needed to hear. to compete.
Nice.
I'm not going to give away those wise comments because I don't want the kids learning what those are, and then they'll soon learn that. Hey, wait a minute! You give me a line just to compete. But those are my favorite ones because over the years, when kids come to me with those concerns, say, Coach, these rings don't feel right, or this high bar seems like this. I remember all those things that Mr. Hayes and Mr. B told me.
Awesome.
And I look back and go, hey, wait a minute, that doesn't really make sense. But you say it.
That's such a special little thing. I love that.
It is, and I never really thought about it, or maybe even had said it out loud until just now. But it's something that's always been like in the corner of your mind.
Yeah.
And this is how you handle a kid who is just kind of they're in their head, and you need to get them out. This is what you do. This is how you help them.
Yeah. So other than that, what are some of the biggest takeaways that you had from your former coaches?
Biggest takeaways is to never overreact. Mm-hmm. I believe that was advice that Mr. Hayes gave Mr. B, and Mr. B kind of just led by example, where kids are kids. High school kids will always be high school kids, no matter how old I become. And as I get older and I get smarter and I grow more patient or grow more impatient, the reality is high school kids are high school kids, and they're going to act like high school kids. And most of the time, you got to let them, be themselves, and when it's appropriate and safe. But I'd say that, the biggest thing that I've learned from them is to not overreact when kids are being too silly, or when kids are just not there.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't do anyone good when you get frustrated.
Yeah.
And you want to pick your right times to be frustrated.
Yeah, got to pick your battles.
You got to pick your battles, right?
So what do you plan on teaching your incoming athletes, and how do you plan to do it?
So it's a different year because we have less kids.
Yeah.
It's a different year because almost half our kids are new.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So we have a little bit, we have around a dozen kids, and 5 of them are new. And so our approach this year is one that we don't use often, and that is introduction to gymnastics.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Generally, the Bronx Recreation Department, we run during the summer. We get elementary school kids come in, and they come up to middle school, and they do the recreation gymnastics, which isn't serious. It's more of like a fun way to do gymnastics and have a workout and be social. But these 5 kids, I think only one of them actually went through the rec department. So they kind of just walk in the gym going, what do we do?
Yeah, what am I looking at?
What am I looking at? And so this year's approach is going to be to train the kid to understand gymnastics and hopefully fall in love with it for the same reasons why we have.
Of course.
And if that works, in 4 years they're going to be solid seniors.
Awesome.
And it'll be their team, and hopefully we'll be more successful.
Of course. So what are you looking forward to in this season?
So this season, I'm looking forward to the growth. I'm really excited about it because since we have so many new kids, the learning curve is just going to be so sharp, and you're going to be able to see the change.
Yeah.
The first couple of weeks we got to be careful. We got to go easy. Their bodies are sore. Their muscles are sore. They're getting fatigued really quick.
Yeah.
We want to avoid injuries and not have them work through the pain. It's never a good thing to do. And so we have to pace ourselves, pace the pain.
Yeah.
Take the breaks. And with the way our schedule is now, we're practicing less days so that the boys and the girls don't share the gym, and we all have more space. Things are a bit more under the guidelines, and so that enables us to have that break, have shorter practices, have that day off when we need it.
Yeah.
And I think that'll enable and foster the growth. And by the end of the year, we should see some big things compared to the beginning of the season.
How is scheduling things this year?
Scheduling's not too bad. Michelle Gillis, who's the head coach of the girls, and Sean Hart, the athletic director. We had a conversation about a week ago on a Google Meet. And we just talked about our availability. We had calendars in front of us, and we talked through it.
Awesome.
For us 3, it didn't seem to be an issue.
Perfect.
But for all the other teams and all the other gyms, I'm sure it's a bit more of a nightmare. But that's something that fortunately I'm not faced with, because I just got to worry about gymnastics.
Perfect. Do you guys have specific days that you have practices on?
So right now we're kind of in that transition stage where we have holiday break coming up. And, so we have half a week next week, and then this week we had a snow day, and so we haven't had a full normal week. But when it comes to January, we're going to start, getting the momentum, and the boys will be going in Mondays and Wednesdays, and we'll be picking up a 3rd day.
Yeah.
And then, the competition, that kind of, we can push that up and down depending on on what the week looks like.
Awesome. So what teams are you guys competing against this year?
So we compete against Attleboro, Newton, Lowell, and Braintree.
They're all still competing this year?
Yep.
Nobody dropped out because of COVID?
Correct.
Awesome.
Yeah. It was a fight. It was a fight for everybody. The athletic directors getting all the information, all the modifications, and then all the scheduling, and then they have to talk with the MIAA and many other boards to get that, and not just for gymnastics, for all the sports.
Yeah, of course.
And that can get really overwhelming, but through patience and in good faith, we were able to make it through, and we'll see where it takes us.
That's what you like to hear. Yeah. So how are meets going to run this year?
So one of two ways.
Okay.
We will not be hosting any other teams, and other teams will not be hosting us or any other teams.
Okay.
So let's just say that this week we were playing Braintree. What's going to happen is one solution is that the judge comes to Burlington and judges Burlington compete.
Okay.
Gives us scores, the whole bit, and we have a total team score. Now, within 2 or 3 days, or 3 to 4 days, that same judge will go to Braintree and judge them.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's not ideal. It's not the best way to do it.
So you're not going to be able to watch any of Braintree?
Well, that's the next thing is being able to film each other, film ourselves, and make that accessible. Because you do learn a lot from watching the other team.
Yeah.
And so that'll be a bridge we have to cross once we figure out the whole judging thing. And then the other way is to do it remotely with the camera.
Yeah.
Is it ideal? No. Is it going to be easy? No. Is it better than not having a season? Yes.
Definitely.
So we all have to make kind of those sacrifices and just kind of like deal with how we're going to deal with it.
Whatever you can take, you take.
Yeah, exactly.
So on a much lighter note, this has been a big year for boys gymnastics as it's the 50th anniversary.
Yeah.
So how do you guys plan to celebrate that at all this year?
Well, ideally, we'd have like the big alumni meet. We have all the alumni come in. And, the best way I think that we have to celebrate it is honor the 49 years that came before us.
Yeah.
Of that 49 years, I was, 22 years of that.
Wow.
From when I was a gymnast to when I volunteered to when I became assistant to now.
Awesome.
And the best way to honor that is work as hard as we can this year so that this becomes one out of the 50 years of gymnastics. And the most recent, Burlington High School Boys Gymnastics has a pulse. We're here, and we're working hard, and we want to honor the 49 years of hard work on everyone's part by doing our part.
Yeah.
And our part is probably a bit more significant than any other year given the circumstances.
Absolutely.
But to honor that, we're going to wear the masks, we're going to socially distance, we're going to pay attention to all the rules in terms of sanitizing, and it doesn't sound exactly like the celebration that I was hoping for, but maybe we could put some sort of montage together. BCAT did an amazing job. Robert did an amazing job putting together the 50th anniversary feature.
Awesome.
And so that just to be able to get that out to everyone and show everyone, like, look at all these years, this legacy that has led up to this year. That was a great way to start it. And to push it more, we're going to try to get, we're going to use the Twitter account.
Awesome.
And let everyone know that we still have a pulse, and that we're going to celebrate it by just working hard in the gym and doing what everyone else did.
Awesome. That's what you like to hear.
Yeah.
So do you know why Burlington started a boys gymnastics team, even though there's none others in the MIAA league?
So it's tough. It's tough to explain. So in 1970, there were about 90 teams.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So even though there's only 5 now, there were 90 back then.
Wow.
And so it was very common. And the athletic director at the time, Dick Fazzone, he had reached out to Mr. Hayes, who was my head coach. And Mr. Hayes was at Springfield College. And Dick Fazzone said, "Hey, Rick, when you graduate Springfield College, I got a job for you. I want you to start a gymnastics team. We have a club team, but we want to make them competitive."
Awesome.
And so in 1970, he came, him, Billy Breslin, a bunch of other guys, they came out, and they practiced, and they ended up winning the state tournament their first year.
Oh, wow. Good for them.
Yeah.
How big was the team? Or do you know?
I'd say anywhere between 12 and 20 kids.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of like the picture, and there's probably those 2 rows of about 7 or 8 kids, so around 12, maybe 18 kids.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how successful has Burlington been over those 50 years?
Well, I mean, you know, when you walk down the wooden gym and you look down at all the posters, all the banners, you see the statistics, the general statistics of league titles and state championships. And when you look at the Burlington flag banner, you look for yourself.
Of course.
You know, hockey has a ton of dates up there that they won. Gymnastics does too, and I never did the math to compare, but gymnastics is one of the top ones.
Awesome.
Yeah, so
that's what you like to hear.
Yeah, so once the pandemic clears and people once the pandemic clears and we can move around the building and start going to events, I invite people to look up at those banners and
awesome.
And take a look for themselves.
Oh yeah, I always look out for volleyball and tennis every time I'm there.
I only look at gymnastics.
So, what are some of the big accomplishments that made their way into the trophy case?
I'd say the league titles. To be an undefeated team. To go in and win the state tournament is one meet.
Yeah.
It's one night, it's one routine, and you go up there, you do it, you do your job, and that's what we do every season, every meet.
Yep.
But to win, to be undefeated is it's tough.
Yeah.
We learned that from the New England Patriots, and when it's when you get on fire, you get addicted to it, and you wanna keep doing that. So I'd say the league titles are probably the biggest accomplishments because of the consistency behind winning.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what have some of the biggest challenges been?
This year or over time?
Over time, yeah.
Recruitment.
Wow.
Recruitment. It's tough. Boys gymnastics is a really tough sport.
Yeah.
There are 6 events. And each event is like its own sport. So to do gymnastics is to do 6 sports in a way.
Yeah.
And to introduce that to someone who's never done it can be intimidating.
Yep.
Especially when you got athletes who've been doing it for 4 years who are really good. Because when you walk in the gym and you see them, you shouldn't compare yourself to that. But how can you walk in there not knowing what a pommel horse looks like, and then you see this kid flipping over a bar, and you're like, what is going on over here?
A little intimidating, yeah.
It's easy to turn around and walk the other way. And so for I would say that one of the biggest and the hottest things is the recruitment and having the kids adhere and stick around long enough to say, you know what, this is hard, but
I'm going to be that guy flipping over the pommel horse.
Because they were that guy who walked in the gym on the first day going, what the heck's going on in here?
Everybody's experienced that.
Over 95%, 98% of the kids who walk in the gym, including myself, had never done gymnastics before. And that's the most important thing for them to remember and get over, which is coincidentally the hardest thing that we have to face every year.
Of course. So how has gymnastics changed throughout all of this time?
Well, when I was in high school, we competed on long horse. So vault would look like a long Twinkie, and so when you run down the runway, you have to vault over this long Twinkie-looking thing.
Yeah.
They changed the vault to it's called the vaulting table now, and it's flat and it's got kind of curves down. So when you enter it, there's a bigger surface area.
Yeah.
And so the sport itself completely changed once they introduced the vaulting table, which I believe was somewhere around 99, maybe 2004, 2003. So about 20 years ago. And then the introduction of the spring floor in the 80s, before they used to compete on like wrestling mats.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then they introduced the spring floor, and there was those 2-inch springs under the floor, and now there's 4-inch springs.
Oh, wow.
And I competed on a 2-inch spring floor, and since then they changed it to 4-inch. And so you got those the evolution of those little things. They put springs in the rings now, so we have a brand new ring rig that we got 2 or 3 years ago. And state of the art, and it has a little bit more shock absorbers in there, so it's easier on the shoulders and the body.
Yeah.
So all those little changes, add up. And
Yeah.
if you haven't been in or seen gymnastics in 20, 25 years, you go in there and you're like, look at this stuff. I wish they had some of this stuff when I was a gymnast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you see the program growing over the next 50 years?
Well, that's a loaded question. I would have to say that the level of recruitment is going to rest solely on social media.
Yeah, makes sense.
Social media didn't exist when I was back in high school. It didn't. Facebook, MySpace, all of those things kind of were, in recent history. And so to be able to use those to our advantage moving forward into the future in showing what Burlington High School looks like now. I mean, if you looked at any of that footage from the from the 50th anniversary feature that Robert put out. A lot of that footage is old from VHS tapes.
Wow.
Every
yeah.
kid has a cell phone. Every kid's filming their meets, you
Yep.
know? And so to harness that and put that out into the world to show them that, what it looks like now and still, and where it's going, I think will be the future of gymnastics.
Wow. So how is the team itself grown? Not just like as the sport, but how has the team grown?
This year it grew by the kids, the very few numbers that we had who were still on the team. We need everyone to reach out and, try to get one person each. If you get two people, great. If you don't get one, try, but, it's word of mouth. And, you can't expect these kids to sell something unless they believe in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's on the coaching, and that's on their perspective on what the sport has done for them. Mm-hmm. And if the sport has done a lot for them, not just athletic-wise, they're going to believe in it, and they're going to subscribe to it, and they're going to want to sell that and share that with their close friends. Say,
absolutely.
You need to get in this gym. You need to join this program.
Absolutely.
This is something different.
I don't think I have the body for gymnastics, but I watch people with gymnastics videos, and I go, that's so cool. I wish I could do that. So what are some of the guidelines that you have to follow for this season in particular? So
we practice in cohorts. We don't practice as one whole team. We're not swarming. A typical year, everyone go to pommel horse, everyone go to floor, everyone go to vault. Mm-hmm. Okay, vault team go over there, P-bar team go over there, and every day is different. And it's a different mix. These 5 kids are practicing with each other, but then in the very next moment, 3 of them are practicing with 2 of those kids. Yeah. And then in one full practice, everyone's just a melting pot. Mm-hmm. Can't do that really much anymore, not this year. So we practice in cohorts, so if someone does, God forbid, get infected, it doesn't affect the whole team. Yeah. It only affects some of them. Between events, we're wiping down mats, we're sanitizing the pommel horse, literally, and we have to put chalk back on there, and it's a bit more of a chore, but it's what we have to do. Yeah. Because the first priority for these kids is that they're healthy and safe. Mm-hmm. And then, then we can coach. Yeah.
So I know it's going to be a challenging season, but what are you looking most forward to this particular season?
I don't want this to sound wrong, but I'm looking forward to the end of the season to see where we came from, to see if we made it through the season, to see the health of everyone, and to see the growth, to see what's going on.
That absolutely makes sense.
With these new kids, what happened? Did they exceed their expectations? Did they exceed my expectations? And so I'm looking forward to it. And and Joe Giannino, the assistant coach, this is his first year as official assistant coach. Mm-hmm. I'm really looking forward to see his take on his first year as an experienced veteran of coaching a full season.
What a weird year to be a first coach.
Well, yeah, it is.
That's got to be tough.
It is, but but it's so structured that regiment works. Yeah. Especially in gymnastics. Yeah. More regimented than it ever has been. And it's a regimented sport. Mm-hmm. So I think yes and no.
Okay, that makes sense. So is there anything else that I haven't asked about that you want to talk about? Or?
No, you pretty much hit on every single topic. And the biggest and most important thing is that with 49 years behind us and us rolling on to the 50th, it means so much to this town because the boys gymnastics program has always given back to the community through the recreation department. Yeah. Mr. Hayes started the rec program. Mm-hmm. Mr. B took it from him when he retired, and I took it from Mr. B years ago when he retired from the rec department. Mm-hmm. And I'm not the one running the program. The high school kids are. They're the ones that do all the coaching to the little ones. Yeah. And they're the ones that are influencing the little ones. Mm-hmm. And they're the ones that are building up their confidence and introducing them to a sport that they may not otherwise have known. And it feeds our program. Yeah. And it keeps us alive. And it's how I started through it, and it's how a lot of kids started through it.
That's incredible.
And so to move forward through that is a blessing. We don't take it for granted. Mm-hmm. And we're going to do everything we can to preserve that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for talking to me today. That was great.
Much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before we go, we're going to take a look back at the 50 years of BHS boys gymnastics with a special retrospective.
Burlington High School gymnastics, the boys program started in 1970, 1971, and has been running nonstop since then. And I came to the program when I was in 8th grade, where at the time assistant coach Rich Bazuski, who was my phys ed instructor at the middle school, had introduced me to gymnastics through activity block. And so I became interested and came onto the team in 1998 as a freshman, and since then graduated out and coached.
I started on the program in 1970, the first team, 70-71. That team was filled with basically sophomores, juniors. There were no seniors on that team. So all of us were together for actually 71 and 72. Had a very unique experience. We had met Coach Hayes through his summer program a couple of times before then. So some of us got a little bit of experience with Coach Hayes before then. But quite frankly, we were the first team to go into a meet-type situation. We had no idea what we were doing. We had never been to a meet, never been judged, never had anyone give us a score whatsoever. And lo and behold, we ended up winning the whole league. We went undefeated 2 years in a row and never lost a meet, which was, I still think, probably one of the few times that a first-year team in a league with 90 teams ended up winning the whole thing. So we were pretty excited about it.
Yeah, so I started on the team in 2004 as a freshman, and never really did much gymnastics before that. My older brother did it, and I kind of want to follow in his footsteps. So yeah, just as a freshman, I had a lot of good role models on that team as a freshman, which really got me into really enjoying it and sticking with it for those 4 years, because it's not an easy sport. A lot of people think it's might be an easy or different sport. I might not think it's very manly, but it's a very difficult physically and mentally wise. And the seniors and the juniors and the guys senior to me on the team did a really good job at keeping everybody interested and kept everybody accountable, held everybody accountable on the team. And it was more or less the physical and mental toughness and structure that I learned in gymnastics throughout high school really has stuck with me throughout my entire career until today. And there's many things in my life which I've done that if it wasn't for gymnastics and learning those skills and kind of athleticism that I learned there, it helps with every aspect of my life. And I really do owe it to gymnastics. Those 4 years, we won states my senior year. We went undefeated. We had a very good team, and I think we actually broke the school record with highest points ever scored in a single meet, total team score points, which was a huge accomplishment. And it was just a huge part of my high school career and in my life was gymnastics. I really do. I do believe that.
So I was actually moving towns. I was living in Stoneham my 8th grade year and moved to Burlington that summer. Played hockey my whole life and actually didn't do gymnastics at all. But when I moved to Burlington, I just hadn't hit my growth spurt yet and, was looking at different opportunities. My father did gymnastics at Burlington, and so I kind of opened that door for a possibility. And so long story short, I walk into the gymnastics gym and I meet Mr. Hayes, which is, the legend around Burlington gymnastics. And he actually coached my father in high school. So he's there, he's laughing, seeing me enter the gym. He didn't even know that I was entering. And so from there, honestly, I knew this was the right fit for me, and then it kind of took off.
Boys gymnastics was not in Burlington High School prior to 1970. They had a girls team, but they had no boys team. And I was in college competing for Springfield College at the time. The athletic director was Dick Frazzone, who was at Burlington for quite a few years and did a tremendous job as athletic director. He started a number of teams, and he gave me a call and said, I understand you're graduating this year. I want to start a gymnastic team at Burlington High School, and I'd appreciate if you come down and have an interview with us. So I did. Long story short, I ended up being the gymnastic coach from 1970, and I had a couple of years off in there, all the way until the year that I retired, which was, I believe, 2002. I'm not really sure at this point. I've been out for a while, but and in that time, we had some tremendous gymnastic teams. Our first year, we got off to a running start, which would have been just about now we were starting. And we went undefeated that first year with the 70-71 team. And we had some great gymnasts that I still see around all the time. Still friends with a lot of them. I play golf with them, and they come up and visit. I have my vacation home in Maine, and they come up here all the time on motorcycles and cars and everything. And we sit and we chat for a while, and it's been a great experience for me because I've stayed close to my alumni. And a lot of them are scholarship gymnasts from especially the early years, and we just really had a good run for gymnastics.
My experience on the team, my 4 years on the team were unlike anything I had ever experienced. I had never been in any organized sports growing up as a kid, besides playing basketball, baseball with neighborhood friends. But to be in an organized sport in Burlington, specifically on the gymnastics team, was life-changing for me.
I was a hockey player growing up, enjoyed playing hockey quite a bit. Burlington in those days had some phenomenal hockey teams. I did not make the hockey team. One of my good friends was planning on coming out for gymnastics. I had always kind of been involved a little in and out with the program, so I decided that I would try out for the gymnastic team, and lo and behold, here I was. So.
I'd have to say some of my favorite memories from the team as a participant was being part of a group that was not my family or friends from the neighborhood. Walking in and being on a team with kids who I'd never met before, even upperclassmen. I was never the type of student that made friends with upperclassmen. It was just they were in a different realm, a different world than me. But in the gymnastics gym, having those upperclassmen there to mentor me and set examples was something that I still look back on fondly and try to recreate in the classroom.
I was not one of the star players on the team by any stretch of the imagination, but a couple of things that I really kind of took away from it was that it really wasn't about the wins and the losses, although certainly we won, but it was really about the experience that you had with some of the players. I'm still in contact with some of the first-year teams. Coach Hayes, I'm still in contact with him quite a bit, and those are the kind of things that you remember. And it's really about the building of character more than it's about the building of a team. Coach Hayes really instilled in us that we were more than just a team. We were really more of a style of a team that really kind of had themselves go forward and made themselves be better than where they started.
So the interesting thing is a lot of those records, like the strength and conditioning records, the most pull-ups and the most push-ups, a lot of those records were held by gymnasts. And it's fun to see some of those records, still being, still holding up. And of course, you look through the trophies and you see some of the teams that either I was on or that I coached, and you walk by and you see those and you feel good. And you look back to the trophies that were 40, 50 years old that are still there, and wonder what those participants are doing nowadays.
We actually started back at the old high school, which now is the Marshall Simons Middle School. That was the original gym that we started in. And as I look through this gym here today, they've got spring floors and all kinds of different equipment than we ever had. We had none of that. So it was a lot different. It was a much different sport in those days.
It's incredible, honestly. So like I said before, the sport of gymnastics is extremely humbling. And so when you walk into the gym and you don't have any prior experience in the sport, you're going to fail a lot, right? And so the fact that you have 50 years of gymnastics now behind us, and hopefully another 50 years in front of us, it means a lot to me, knowing that I'm the second generation of this exact same team, and where we've come. Like, you go into the gym and you see all the state championship banners hanging. I mean, that's not a fluke. That happens for a reason, and comes with great coaching. Like I said, Mr. Hayes, Mr. Brzezinski, and now Jourdan Marino. But I can't emphasize enough how incredible the sport is in growing for me and maturing for me. You know, a lot of perseverance has to go into the sport. Like I said, you're going to fail more than you succeed. And so it's humbling. And so it's definitely built who I am today, because, you know, throughout my whole life, I've gone through a lot of obstacles. I've had to climb over obstacles, and the character that, you know, I built in that gym has allowed me to overcome those obstacles and persevere and ultimately get to where I want in life and succeed.
One of the things that was kind of interesting as well too is we had a really phenomenal athletic director by the name of Dick Frazone. Dick was instrumental in bringing the program together with Coach Hayes. And one of the stories that I've told before at some of the alumni meets that the gymnastic program has put on is that Dick Frazone came down and asked us just before the season started, how many wins do you think we would get? And of course we said, oh, we're going to win every one of them. It's going to be great. We had no idea. And he said, well, I'll bet you that for every win that you get, we're going to give everyone on the team a pair of white socks. And lo and behold, at the end of the season, Dick Frazone came down with a big bucket full of brand new white socks and handed them all out. So I still remember that 50 years ago today.
So, you know, it's kind of a strange thing because, you know, you come on the team as a participant, and if you stick around long enough, you help out the team. If you're serious and committed enough, you become, you know, part of the coaching staff, and that's exactly what happened. You know, Mr. Hayes retired, and Mr. B moved up, and I became assistant coach. And with Mr. B retiring, I'm hoping to move into that position and keep the legacy going.
Oh man, I really hope it does continue another 50 years, because along with you know, my other two brothers from my family do gymnastics, and multiple friends that I continue to talk to that I did gymnastics with in high school. I mean, like I said, the physical, mental toughness that you learn, the friendships that you gain, and the coaches, the relationship you get with, you know, role models that you really, that I still talk to, you know, Coach Hayes, that was my coach, and Coach Bazuski and Jourdan Marino, all my coaches that coached me throughout the years. I still am in contact with them, and I could call them if I needed anything. So not only is it athleticism-wise, the after-school curriculum stuff that you're doing, after-school activities that you're doing, everything on top of that, with the friendships that you gain and the relationships that you gain through these people that really care about you in the gymnastics community, is really unlike any other sport that I've ever played in, and I've played in multiple other sports. So that's the beauty of it, and that's the thing I hope that does continue throughout the next 50 years.
Now, when I first started, there was a very competitive schedule. There was pretty near 90 or 80 or 90 teams in the state, and we had our own different leagues, and you had playoff meets to get in, and one by one, it was very difficult to get coaches. It's a tough sport to coach. You have to put a lot of time into it, and it can be extremely frustrating because it takes so long to develop kids in gymnastics, but it is also one of the most rewarding things I could have ever done. Like I said, I've seen a number of kids go to school and become very successful with scholarships and without them, and we had a lot of kids graduate from Burlington High School and go compete for many different teams, including Syracuse, Stanford University, UCLA. We had kids from Springfield College, Boston State, Lowell University. We still have 4 members of the Lowell University Hall of Fame that went to Burlington High School. We had 2 visits from Mike Lynch from the Global Scholastic team, and we were picked Team of the Year, and we had a number of times where athletes were picked for Gymnast of the Year, and we just had a lot of success that turned into a lot of good experiences for kids. So I hate to see it end for any reason. I would love to see it keep going, because it's really for what the kids get out of it, and they've got an awful lot out of it in gymnastics. So
The boys gymnastics program specifically has been a staple in this community for a very long time, and one of the introductions to the boys program was through the recreation department. Mr. Hayes started the rec program during the summer, and a lot of the boys and the boys teams became, their first jobs, including mine, was for the rec gymnastics program and coaching. And these kids learn to love gymnastics, and when they finally get to the middle school or the high school, they can actually be part of it. And so it's kind of like a full circle in a way, where this gymnastics program with the boys has been a big part of that, because after Mr. Hayes retired, he gave the rec program to Mr. Bazuski, and after he retired, actually about 5 or 10 years ago, he retired from the rec program and I took it over. And so the Burlington Gymnastics recreation program has been in the hands of a boy, traditionally a boys coach, just because we've had the drive, motivation, and the mentorship to keep that program going. And this past summer it was a modified gymnastics program, but we got a lot of participants, as many as we could safely have, and parents were very thankful for that. And we had the boys in there, high school kids coaching, and the high school girls, and so using the gymnastics program during the winter as a way to network for that, to give back to the community, has been something that I've been particularly proud of since I've been involved with this sport.
And that's all for this month's BNEWS Sports Hub. I'd like to thank my guest, head coach Jourdan Marino, and I want to thank you all for watching. I'm Liz Gillespie, and we'll see you next time on BNEWS Sports Hub.